Hello and welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us today at Growing Through Knowing, the knowledge driven approach for government contractors. We're going to have a great session. I'm Shoaib, a marketing manager here at iQuasar. Think of me as your host today for today's conversation. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Government contracting sounds complicated, maybe even a bit intimidating. And you know what? You're right. It can be. But trust me, it doesn't have to be a headache. Here at iQuasar, we're all about making this process smoother, easier, and even enjoyable. We've got a whole team of experts who basically eat, sleep, and breathe government contracting. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned professional, we're here to help you navigate the ins and outs and avoid those common pitfalls. Today's webinar particularly is about some basic strategies to grow your business, some principles that you can follow, in your business plan to expand your business in this sector. Speaking of experts, let me introduce the brains behind our proven framework for success, our CEO, Mr. Tahir Qazi. Tahir's been in the game for over 20 years. He's got a knack for breaking down complex topics into clear, actionable steps. And that's what today's podcast is about. Tahir, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Shoaib. It's great to be here with you. Let's get down to business. If there is one secret weapon in the world of government contracting, it's one that is knowledge. But not just any knowledge. We're talking about strategic, targeted knowledge. I like to call this approach the knowledge framework. It's like a roadmap guiding you through every step of the process. It's a 7-step process. The first step is knowing your audience. The second step is knowing yourself. What are your capabilities? The third step is knowing your partners. If you have gaps in your capabilities, who complements them? The fourth step, knowing the numbers. What are the budgets? What are the spending trends at government agencies? The fifth step is knowing the rules. Do you understand federal acquisition regulation? Do you understand what compliance means? The sixth step is being known through marketing, through engagement. And the seventh step is knowing your plan, making a clear, actionable plan, acting on it, and moving forward.
That's a great way to put it, Tahir. Thanks for that. And I can already see the wheels turning in everyone's minds. Now let's get ready and dive deeper into each of these key principles that you just described. All right, Tahir. So the first step you mentioned is knowing the audience. So what does that mean beyond simply knowing that the government is your customer? Because obviously that's too obvious, but are there some nuances to it, some layers that you want to walk us through?
Absolutely. It's about identifying the specific agencies and departments that align with your offerings. Each department, each agency has its unique needs, its priorities, its budgets. So one needs to research agency websites, mission statements, past contracts, and current challenges in order to pinpoint who the ideal customer is. So it really is a couple of steps there. Understand the market, what agencies buy that you are selling, what companies could benefit from partnering with you, what does your buyer or partner really need? That's understanding the market, knowing your audience first part. Then the second part is understanding who's who. Who makes or influences the buying or partnering decisions? What do they care about? What are their pain points? What's the best way to reach them? And then the third step in this knowing your audience knowledge framework aspect is creating a tailored approach, tying their specific needs to your specific solutions, evaluating and speaking to the existing state of things as they see them, as they have them, and speaking to their future needs as well.
That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. Not just understanding who's going to buy from you, but also what compels them to buy, what their needs are, their pain points are, but then also who are the people who will be influencing those decisions, connecting with them, creating an approach to reach out to them. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Second, you mentioned that there are some tools that contractors can use. So do you want to walk us through them? I know a lot of these are publicly available, but a lot of people don't know how to use them, or a lot of people don't even know like how many functionalities they have that they can utilize. So do you want to walk us through maybe a top 3 of those?
Absolutely. Actually, the 3 tools I'm going to talk about are all free and available to the public. The first one, where all the real-time data resides, is the FPDS database. That's the Federal Procurement Data System, which has real-time information, day-to-day information about various projects. It has a Google-like interface in it where you can search and you can find information about contracts that the government is giving out, the grants the government is making. It has all the data that you could ever want to know about governments buying and their granting of the money. Then that data is fed into, for easy usage and visualization, into this tool called usaspending.gov. Again, this is also public facing. Every 30 days, the government creates a nice interface, visual charts based on the FPDS data. So let's say that you're not looking at day-to-day changes or what's currently happening, but you want to look at big trends and large trends, then you want to go to usaspending.gov. And you can look at visuals, and you can look at graphs, and you can look at geographical, spend of the money and whatnot. Then the third tool that you could use as a government contractor, SAM.gov basically has information in it about who the various government contractors are, the names, the capabilities, at a very high level. At a NAICS code level. It has information about if there is a government contractor who is accepted from doing work with US government. So SAM.gov provides information to those who are registered in SAM.gov. SAM.gov is not public facing. It is it basically has information for those who actually are registered in it as government contractors. And so it also gets its information from FPDS, and it has information about current opportunities the government has opened, federal government has opened. Extremely excellent resource. The system for award management resource, the SAM.gov, is an excellent resource.
Thanks, Fab. I'm sure a lot of people are already using these tools, but maybe they can go deeper into the functionalities that they have to offer. Second, you mentioned know yourself. I'm not going to lie, it kind of reminds me of that ancient Greek Delphic maxim of know thyself. That's also found in a lot of other spiritual traditions. But as far as business is concerned, what does it entail for a government contractor? What does knowing yourself mean?
Absolutely. So knowing yourself, essentially at the heart of it is the question, what can I do given the environment around me? Now, there is a framework businesses have used for decades now called the SWOT framework, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so you could use that to come to a couple of things. So first, what do you do best? What are your true core capabilities? What are some niche capabilities that you have? So focus on 1 or 2 or 3 things and identify them. What are the key differentiators, key differentiating capabilities for you? So list them out. So that's one part of knowing yourself. The second part of knowing yourself is, what is your unique selling proposition? How are you different from your competitors? Believe it or not, you're not the only one going after government contracting business. There's so many out there. And so you need to know what sets you apart. What's your competitive advantage? And then the third thing about knowing yourself is, what specific pain points of a target agency do your capabilities address? In other words, do you have solutions for problems? There might be multiple competitors out there, but yours might have a better quality solution. You may be able to do things faster than your competitor. You may have a cost advantage over others. And so you need to know that and understand that in order for you to be able to sell to the government in an effective way. So that's what knowing yourself is: recognizing and capitalizing on your unique strengths and what sets you apart.
Got it. And obviously there, as you mentioned, there's the SWOT method, the SWOT analysis method, and then there are other tools that do you want to briefly touch upon some others?
Yes, absolutely. So another thing to do in order to come to that conclusion is, after you have identified who your potential customer is, based on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, is what's known as a value proposition canvas. You create what are the customer needs, what gains do they want to get from your type of services, and what are their pain points. And then you look at your own offerings and you then say that, are my products able to do the work that the government wants done, or this particular agency wants done, or what their strategic focus is? Or am I able to create the gains that they seek? Or am I able to relieve the pain points that they have? And so this value proposition canvas allows you to not only answer the question if you should be playing at a particular agency, but also how to evolve your products and services in order to target an agency in the future. So it's mostly a productization philosophy, how to create services that set you apart. And then the third thing, after the SWOT analysis and the value proposition canvas, is what's known as a business model canvas. Now that you have figured out what the customer needs, you create a value proposition. Now, at that point, you want to figure out, is this the only agency that could use my capabilities, or there are others? And so you create what's called a customer segment map. What my target segments are. It could be Department of Health and Human Services. It could be, in addition to that, I'm going to go to the Food and Drug Administration. Both of them are going to use my unique skill or unique capability. And so once you have identified your customer segments, then you need to identify, how do you reach to them in the best possible way? What are the customer relationships that you want to engage in? After you have done that, you also then want to figure out what are the various channels, or the industry days, or the OSDBUs you want to go to. So that's one side of the equation. That sort of creates your revenue stream. The other side of the equation is what your cost structure is. And that basically is, what should you be doing on a day-to-day basis? What resources should be on your team? Who should be your partners? This is the general form of the business model canvas.
Perfect. Now on to the next component of the framework, which is know your partners. And we all know the importance of keeping good company. For businesses, why do you think partnerships are so crucial in this space? Like, can't you just go at it on your own? And what are the difficulties and what are the strengths that come with a partnership, and especially with the right partnerships?
Yeah, what a beautiful question. Good question. Yes. So the issue fundamentally with partnerships is essentially, at some point they will go south, they will go sour. So unless there is clarity upfront, so there is this overarching governance you need to have around partnerships. But the way to know your partners is, you want to find out partners that complement you. So you will have to do some sort of a gap analysis to identify, what is it that I don't have? You may not have past performance in a certain space. You see that as a significant opportunity at a particular agency, but you just don't have the past performance. So based on complementary needs and complementary strengths, you want to identify the right partners. And then there are different structures that you can use. You can use prime sub relationships, you can use teaming agreements, you can use joint ventures. There are ways to actually operationalize a partnering arrangement. A general tip in this space is, you want to start small. You want to work with partners where they can help you bid on smaller type of things, because partnerships build over time, trust builds over time, so starting small makes sense. And then of course you want to leverage your small business status with partners. There might be some big prime contractors out there. They may be looking for a small disadvantaged business. They may be looking for a veteran-owned small business. They may be looking for a women-owned small business, given that the government has set asides and whatnot. So reaching them makes sense. And some of the ways like SBAs, 8A programs, using Apex accelerators, using mentor protege type of relationships make sense.
Perfect. And what are some of the tools that people can, it can be difficult to find the right network, and obviously there are connections, personal connections, but how about, when you only have a few contacts, but you want to explore all of these other partners that you could potentially team up with? So are there some portals, are there some tools that people can use?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, Small Business Administration, SBA, has something called SBA Subnet. You want to register there. People post their partnering needs. Primes post those things. They're basically looking for partnerships, and SBA Subnet is a great resource. SBA also happens to have a subcontracting directory on its website, so one could use that. GSA has an e-library. Of course, we talked about System for Award Management, sam.cow. That's a good resource for figuring out. You can do search through filtering and figure out who do I need based on what skills do you want. In a certain NAICS code, you want to find somebody. And then there are commercial databases and commercial tools available. For example, GovWin is a good tool through which you can find partners, and there are others. Also, companies like us, iQuasar, given our footprint, given that we work with hundreds of customers every year, are a good way to get connected into partnerships with them.
Thanks for that. That's really interesting. And moving on to the next component of the framework, which is knowing the numbers. In government contracting, that means diving deep into the data, analyzing lots of various figures, that the government releases about their spending and etc. But what are some of the other aspects of knowing the numbers, and what does it really mean to know numbers?
Absolutely. So data is the gold currency in government contracting. So use data to spot trends in agency budgets and RFPs so that you can focus your efforts on opportunities that are the best fit for your business. What does that mean? That means analyzing the budget and spending at each agency and sub-agency, tracking and analyzing budget allocations, historical spending data, forecasting data. All of these are pieces of information, pieces of data that are going to drive you towards your prize, which is winning an RFP. Track what others are doing. So competitive analysis on an ongoing basis. Monitor competitors. Go to their websites. See what they are doing. You can also use information from FIA Act, Freedom of Information Act, and reach out to contracting officers to get information that sources like FPDS or SAM or usaspending.gov cannot give you. For example, you're not going to get information about subcontracting on a particular contract from any of those resources. So you can use FOIA to reach out to a contracting officer and figure out what was done by an incumbent. And ultimately, like anything in life, pick your battles. Pursue bids that you can realistically win. Focus on opportunities that have high probability of success, and avoid any opportunities that are not going to be viable in the long run. And the toolkit, again, as we touched on that, A little bit. You can use FPDS, you can use SAM.gov, you can use USAspending.gov. And if you're buying commercial licenses like GovWin and others, they also provide analysis and reports and whatnot. And all of those are going to be very helpful for you to be able to understand and know the numbers.
That sounds really valuable. And the next component, the fifth component, you mentioned knowing the rules. Why is compliance so critical in government contracting, and is it really that complex? Because a lot of new entrants, especially, they get very intimidated with, hey, I have to comply with FARs, DFARs, DCCA. Is it unmanageable? Are there ways that you can simplify your understanding of these regulations? And most importantly, how to achieve that? Are there some tools? Obviously, you're going to walk us through the toolkit as well, but what are some best practices to stay compliant?
So first and foremost, in government contracting, compliance is the long pole in the tent. If your response is not compliant, if you don't understand the rules, it doesn't matter how good your service is, how good your offering is, you just are going to lose the opportunity and lose the contract, and maybe subject to legal penalties. So compliance is essential. So key regulations like FAR, which is Federal Acquisition Regulation. If you're working with Department of Defense, there is DFARS, which is Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement. Department of Defense just came up with CMMC, Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. These are all sorts of things that are fundamental to be compliant with the government regulations. And you want to adhere to regulations. You want to ensure that you understand them fully. You want to stay updated on them. And you want to ensure that you have all these systems and accounting systems and internal tools and internal processes in place so that you're compliant with what you have to do in order to be compliant on performing on a contract, not just winning it. And you need to plan ahead. You need to create a strategic plan that sets very clear objectives for you as it comes to compliance. And in the toolkits, there's nothing better than the government website called acquisition.gov. You can access federal acquisition regulation there. You can access all sorts of information about FAR and its sub-clauses. With the new tools that are available that can summarize pages, that can summarize these regulations, you want to use an AI tool of some sort to ask very basic questions of the FAR. And it's very easy to do that. But acquisition.gov is a good source of information for being compliant and knowing compliance.
Right. So compliance, as you said, is the key. Sixth, let's talk about the last, basically this component of the framework, which is being known. And what does that involve beyond just traditional marketing that everybody does, but a lot of people find it hard to find the sweet spot where it really hits and gets them the return that they would want. So marketing, obviously, but what exactly in marketing is so essential to being known? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. As many people in this industry will tell you, relationships matter in this industry more than anything else. So being known is marketing, but being known is also building the right types of relationships. Establishing strong relationships with key decision makers, and building a competent workforce is crucial to your success in government contracting. There are a couple of ways to think about it. One is when you are sending marketing materials out, not many people care about what your features are, what you do. Everybody cares about what you can do for them, what you can solve for them. So the first thing to do is to engage with anybody with a solution, engage to solve and not sell. And that helps you cultivate good relationships. Of course, all of this needs to be done with compliance, with regulations and whatnot. For example, if an RFP is out, you're not going to be at that point taking somebody out for lunch, and you just can't do that. That's just is not compliant with the law. And so understanding those things make sense. Building your team, building a good team on technical skills, compliance skills, who can communicate effectively is part of being known. And participate, network, go to industry days, go to briefings. There are federal contracting expos, engage with small business specialists through the GovCon Chamber directory. Those are some of the things that that a company can do in order to be known. But having a good website in place that's pleasing, that clearly shows your value proposition, that is targeted to the right audience, that has all the information in there, is a good thing to do. Having similar information in small business directory search that SBA owns is a good thing to do. If you are on a GSA schedule, making sure that your listing has all the information, that's the right thing to do. That's all part of marketing.
Great advice.
And for you to be able to do a good job in this is to start with something very basic. Do you have a capability statement in place? Is it on your website? Is it downloadable from SBA's website if you have an 8A certification, for example? Do you have a great website? We talked about it a little bit earlier. Having business cards in place, having flyers for events in place, responding to RFIs is part of your being known toolkit. Going to industry days, going to networking events. There are lots of accelerators and places where you can meet with other people in your industry, and doing them in your part of geography is the right thing to do, and so that's part of being known.
Great advice. Finally, a common pitfall in government contracting is when businesses jump from one RFP to the other without having a plan in place. So I know the seventh and the last component of the framework covers that. So why is having a plan so important?
So essentially, at the heart of it is you can have all the knowledge in the world, but it has to translate into action. Unless you do that, you're not winning in government contracting. So you need to set clear, specific, achievable goals. You need to develop a plan to achieve those goals. You need to break them down into smaller steps. You need to assign within your own team ownership and deadlines, or for yourself, deadlines and timelines. You need to monitor progress. Of course, with all of that, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face. You need to be flexible, and you need to adapt to the evolving government contracting landscape. And so knowing your plan is clearly defined action plan, laying out goals, resources required, monitoring mechanisms, and being able to adapt. So the posting is set some realistic goals, assign owners to them, ensure that each objective has a dedicated owner, clearly identify financial, human, technological resources needed. One of the frameworks people use is called an OKRI framework, Objectives and Key Results Framework. It's a very easy to implement framework, and you can use that. Use a small project planning tool. There are so many out there. There are some that come with your Microsoft Office 365 subscription, some that are SaaS tools to monitor your project plan. Use that, and with that, knowing your plan translates everything that you have done before that. This is the seventh step of the seven-step process that translates into actual business ultimately at the end of the day.
Makes sense. So for our audience, to summarize for our audience, there are 7 components to this framework, starting with knowing the people you're selling to, just knowing your audience. Secondly, knowing yourself, what your strengths are and what you have to bring to the table. And then knowing your partners, basically who you're working with in this space and how they complement you, understanding that and having the right partnerships in place. And then the fourth component, knowing your numbers, and then knowing the rules. The sixth one is being known, and the last one, as Tahir just described, knowing your plan and being very strategic about it and setting goals that you can achieve. This has been an incredibly insightful session, Tahir. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I'm sure our audience is feeling much more confident and prepared to tackle the challenges of the space, government contracting.
It's my pleasure, Shoaib. It's been a joy sharing this knowledge framework with such an engaged audience. Remember, success in government contracting is within your reach. Embrace the knowledge framework, stay focused, and never stop learning.
Thanks, Tahir. And to our audience, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we're here to support you on your government contracting journey. Thanks. Thank you, Tahir.
Thank you.